Okay, so group, today you've done your lighting techniques as well as interviewing techniques and setting up your shot. So hopefully by now you might have an understanding about the amount of time that you'll need going into your interviews, your preparation. Alright, so making sure that you're ready to go, you've got a kind of rough idea how you're going to set up your shot, how might you set up your lights when you do your actual interviews come the shooting window. Okay, with this footage, what you can do now is look at it, see where your strengths are, see where your weaknesses are, see what you might do when you come to shoot your interviews proper. Okay, think about the sound as well. Think about how you've recorded that. Think about using the lapel mic. So if you notice on this clip, when people are speaking, they're very clear, and that's what you need to remember for your documentary. People that you're interviewing, your audience needs to be able to hear those people. Alright? Remember, when your lighting gives a nice stylized effect, so next time you watch a documentary, think about how they've done their interviews. So for example, the observational Channel 4 documentaries, they'll have the camera rolling for X amount of time, and then they'll do interviews with the people that they're interviewing in terms of, as a reaction to the observational footage that's just been shot. So you've learned a lot from today's session. You've all worked really well. Just think about how you might use it within the techniques that you've learnt today. What is a struggle, what you're aware of, what you can build on, what strengths you can build on, and employ it in your actual interview footage. Okay, so think about looking at your interviews now. How might you structure those in a documentary? So you can write all about this, what you've learned in your blogs. All right. Okay. Okay, so here we've got Eddie, and we're going to do a lighting setup in the sort of Channel 4 documentary style that's popular at the moment. So first of all, we need to get a nice frame. So don't set up your camera, zoom in, zoom out. What you want to do is focus on the head. Okay, big close-up. Extreme close-up. Alright, so when we've got that, we're happy with it. Okay, the next thing you want to do is make sure that the ring is on manual focus. You want to play around with it until you've got the background out of focus and the foreground, being your subject's head, in focus. Okay, now you've got your frame. So the next thing you want to do is make sure you've got your lighting set up. Now you can already see in the class 3 lights, and we're going to see what they look like. First we'll turn on the backlight. So Adam, if you can turn on the backlight for me. There we go, and that lights up the background, giving a sense of depth. Eddie, if you can just reach over and click on the fill light. Okay, so now we've got our fill light open, and then finally the key light, the main light. So now you've got a sense of what it looks like. You might have to readjust your focus, but as you can see, you've got a sense of depth, sense of shadowing, and a bit of style. Okay, so once you've done that, you might want to check where it's hot. So what you need to do is go into menu on your camera, go to ring set and look for the zebras. Okay, in fact no, there's a zebra function there, so let's put it on 70, and where the zebras are it shows you where it's hot. Okay, so when you do this you'll see lots of lines on Eddie's face, it's all the zebras. Okay, right, if you want to turn that down, what you need to do is go to ring set and exposure, click OK, and then just nudge the exposure down just a little bit so it's not overexposed. So now you can see it getting darker, and what you want is maybe some in the background, and then you've got that nice kind of look. There you go. Okay, finally what you want to do is just white balance it. With a white piece of paper in front of the camera, go to menu, go down, hit the white balance, hit one push.
So there's a few of us in the team, so you could really mention on email again, but also observation. You were
And now you've got a professional looking setup. Don't forget about your composition, rule of thirds. But then once you've got that set up, you can play around. So, turn off the backlight there. And now the background looks a bit darker, doesn't look as interesting, doesn't look like there's a lot of depth. Turn off the fill light. We've got even darker look, okay? So don't forget you can play around with your key light now. What I'm doing now is just moving this parallel to where Eddie is.
just so we plan on making a documentary about how society shows.
All I've done there is move the light parallel to Eddie. So now we've got one side of his face light and the other side kind of dark. So if you're going for more like a moody documentary style, you might want to use that technique. Again, give it a bit of background. Again, it lights it up. You've got that sense of depth going on. Okay? So don't forget, you can move your angles around as well. So if your subject's looking forward, move the camera in closer, and you've got a whole different feel there, haven't you? Again, if you stick on the fill light, zoom out a little bit, maybe play around with the focus, you've got a whole different thing. So you could have your interviewer in front of your subject talking to them, and that's just another way of doing it. Again, you could go in close for that dramatic feel. Okay. Don't forget you need to adjust. Focus. Make sure it's sharp. I'll be looking out for shots that are out of focus. If you want to say something dramatic, a close-up's always good for that kind of dramatic feel. Now I've turned off the key light. It's a lot more darker, isn't it, all around? So we can move it over this side and get the same sort of feeling. And this time we'll have the key light on the same side as the camera. Again, going for that feel. Just be warned though that when you're interviewing, the subject might get really, really hot underneath the lights. Okay? So there's a basic sort of talk through. And once you've kind of played around with your lights and you're ready to set up and go, don't forget we've got these lapel mics which you should clip into the camera. Turn the lights off now. Whenever you're not using the lights, remember to turn them off. I'll say that again. Whenever you're not using the lights, remember to turn them off. Okay? So turn the house lights back on. They're the lights in the location or the studio or the classroom. So, like I've always said to you, the most important thing that you need to get is the sound of your person that you're interviewing. Okay? So these are little microphones. These that you can literally clip. It's not plugged in at the moment. Literally clip onto your subject's clothing, and hopefully you'll get a nice crisp sound. Finally, you'll be linked up to a boom mic as well. You can go into the Zoom mic, so you can use 2 soundtracks. Okay? Alright. Thanks, Eddie.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, then you had after part of your house as well.
I just quite know.
That's what we're saying when I was doing musical.
So when you've finished with your lights, just make sure you let them cool down before packing them away. Unplug them all, unplug everything, and just let the lights just stand for about half an hour so they cool down. Okay. Alright. And finally, when you're letting them cool down, just make sure they're not against anything, such as a wall or a ceiling. Okay? So when you're lighting, you might be bouncing the light off a white surface. Just remember, if it's close to that white surface, heat builds up. Okay, so make sure there's a bit of distance. Use some neutral density and those gels to kind of cool down the light. And then when you're letting them cool down, just make sure they're stood away from anything and they're not directly against, say, a ceiling or a wall. Okay, so this, using the lights, lighting setup, 3-point lighting, will give your productions, your documentaries, that professional look that we can be proud of. Okay, and just think how you want your subject to look, and what's the general style, the mood that you're going for within the context of your documentary and theme. Okay, then hopefully we can make some professional documentaries that you can all be proud of.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you remember your school experience?
Do you mean primary school or?
Primary school and high school.
Vaguely.
And do you remember what you wanted to be when you was in primary and high school?
I always wanted to go in the Wrens.
And what changed your mind?
Probably changing lifestyle and family and having kids.
Was you put in a particular set when you was in school?
In senior school I was, yes.
Was you in the high, medium or low set?
Medium.
Medium. And how do you feel that affected you?
To be honest, I don't think it did. I think it was about right.
And do you feel that there was segregation in school when you was there?
Yes.
In what sense?
I think the way people were put into sets was how they used to
And
hang around.
yeah, and do you feel that it's changed at all over the years?
I don't think my children felt it as much, or they never said to me that they did.
And my final question is, how did you end up becoming a helper here?
Just 'cause I moved over here, and I started with an agency, and it just led from there.
And do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay, based on the answers that you've got, see if you can improvise some questions, okay?
So, when did you get into this agency? Did you go to like college or anything?
I've got two degrees.
What are they?
One's in counselling, and my first one was in early years. So I worked for about 11 years in early years, and to be honest, I just about had enough of the younger ones. And
yeah, so you wanted to come see the older ones.
And
do you prefer working with the older generations?
Yeah.
Thinking about the segregation in the younger years where you worked, do you feel that it's different with the older years at all?
Not that I've seen.
Do you think it's kind of the same?
Yes. Yeah.
See if anyone else wants to ask a question.
Can I ask you, when the class sets, obviously when your school had class sets, do you believe that this was an establishment of social division within Britain?
Yeah, I think it was.
It was?
Yeah.
What's your reasons for that?
The opinion I felt, or the way that I was made to feel, was the higher set that you were in, it was sort of like you got treated a bit different by the teachers.
So do you believe that higher sets got better teaching standards compared to lower sets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's fair?
At the time, I probably didn't, but now you maybe look back and think, well, was it or wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I don't really know, but there's maybe swings and roundabouts for it all. And
also, can I ask you, do you believe that your surroundings whilst you was in school affected your outcomes in class, your grades? Like the behaviours of other people?
Probably, I think in a roundabout way, like I always wanted to be, like not doing the homework, out doing other things.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any question?
Nice, that's a cut.
Camera up.
It's still on record.
Right, camera rolling.
Right, okay. Action.
Right, you need to clap.
Oh!
You're syncing up,
Action.
aren't you? It's all about syncing sound and visuals up. That's why you clap. Right, good to go.
Right, hi David. What's your documentary about?
Well, in our documentary we're going to do about the effects parenting and technology have. So we'll look into sort of how technology's changed and why they'd particularly use technology to look after kids and the effect it has on them.
Do you think there's a big relation between technology and parenting?
I think over the recent years there's been many changes with iPads being on the increase, and parents tend to now really just buy kids technology because it's easier for them to parent when they can just say, oh, just have an iPad. So I think we really want to look into that and see how much more it affects them.
So your demographics for this documentary, is it mainly parents?
I think parents would definitely be the main target audience of who would be interested, but I think we could also hit maybe up and coming parents as well, so that they know what are parents doing wrong, and that can stop them from doing the same thing.
And why have you chosen this subject? Is this subject something that's important to you? Or?
I think it's quite hard hitting. There are many documentaries out there that are about technology. There's many documentaries out there about parenting, but there aren't many that link the two together. And I think it's there, especially with now, there's a high increase of technology being used in the home, and it can be quite scary. And I think it's important that we address that fact.
And do you think your documentary will be different? It is a different, you've got a different subject, but are you going to do anything in terms to make this documentary stand out?
I think we probably will focus less on maybe having a key presenter type idea, and maybe just focus on particular individuals and what they do and how they progress with their children using technology. So I think focusing on particular individuals rather than having a presenter to sort of talk the audience through it is probably how we're going to do it different.
What kind of style would you be going for then when just interviewing your individual?
I'd say it's more a sort of performance style, because as much as they're not really presenters, they're definitely, it's all about them.
Yeah.
So I guess it'd be more that kind of style.
Do you think your documentary will make a change? You say that you might be, as a secondary audience, you'll be making new mums aware.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have an impact?
Yeah, I definitely hope that would be the case, and that people would watch it and they'd realise, oh, that was my plan to use that sort of thing, and yet it's having maybe a negative effect on kids, and maybe that would change. It might also, parents now might also see the documentary and think, oh, that's how I've been doing it. So it might make them think, maybe I've had an effect on my kids, and maybe I should change as well.
Yeah, right. Thank you, David.
You're very welcome.
Camera rolling. Right, Matt, so do you use technology in your day-to-day life?
Yeah, I'd say I do. I use my phone and my laptop, television.
So would you say you have like a personal kind of TV, a computer, a laptop?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, every day, pretty much.
So each day, how often do you think you use it? Do you use it like quite a lot? Or is it just like an hour here and there?
I'd say television's here and there, but phone most often.
Why do you think you use your phone most often? Is it because it's portable?
Yeah, it's always on me, and you know, I need it to get in contact with people, and there's social media on there, and it just becomes addictive.
So more for the handy factor, the bit, being able to take it wherever you want, and the accessibility.
Yeah.
How was technology used when you were brought up? Was it used somewhat as a babysitter, or was it a bit frowned upon?
I think I watched as much. Whose phone is it?
How was technology used when you was being brought up by your parents or guardians? Was it used as a bit of a babysitter, or was it kind of frowned upon, or was it not really kind of embraced?
I think I watched as much television as everybody else did, and that's as much as I can remember, really. There weren't as much technology as what we've got now that were affordable anyway.
As a child, did you prefer to watch TV, or would you prefer to go out and play, kind of climb trees?
I'd watch TV every now and again, but yeah, I did like to go out and play and do my own things.
Do you believe that it's affected your relationship with your family? So, have you got some strength because of like a common interest?
Yeah, more with my dad. Stuff he introduced me to when I was younger.
Any examples to what he introduced you to?
What did you say about TV, did you say?
Yeah, how's it kind of like built up relationship between you and your dad?
Well, I became interested in stuff that he was watching and doing. And obviously when you have a mutual interest, you come closer with that person.
In your opinion, does the internet harm or kind of support the development of children?
I suppose it could harm them. There's a lot of stuff on there that's not suitable for children, and it's quite accessible as well.
In what ways do you think it could possibly harm them?
It could have a psychological effect on them, I suppose, the same way that some films are rated for older people, they're not suitable for younger people, and there's a reason for that. So if they come across something on the internet that they're not supposed to see, then it could definitely harm them.
Do you believe it's down to the parents to try and stop the children from being at risk of harm from the internet, or?
Well, they've got no choice. They've got to. They can't stop everybody that's putting this stuff on there. So they've got to. They shouldn't have to, but they have got to put them parental locks on if that's what they want to do.
Are some elements of technology, so like part of the internet, part of YouTube, kind of censored from you, so you're not allowed or you can't access them?
Oh, no.
So you can access anything you want?
Yeah, I've always been trusted with.
Are you monitored by your parents or guardians, any kind of apps?
No. As long as I don't, spend my mum's money on apps.
Do you think technology can have a great influence over social behaviour, so the way we communicate with each other just face to face?
What do you think? Do I think it benefits?
So has it replaced instead of talking, has it replaced?
I don't think it's replaced it, but I think it's helped it. It's a lot. People still manage to talk, but it's more ideal for somebody to drop someone a message on Facebook or text or whatever to say, are we still meeting here or whatever, whereas 20 years ago, if they were there, they were there.
So the final question is, do you think technology is good or bad overall?
Overall, good. Yeah.
Lynn?
Cameras rolling. Okay. And action. So how many hours a day roughly do you spend online?
I'd say I'd spend around 6 or 7 hours, roughly.
Do you think that you are influenced by technology?
See, I'd personally say no, but it depends on how much is used in the house. Like in my house, it's not used that much, but in other houses, it's perhaps used a lot more, which could perhaps used for their upbringing. So.
What social media do you feel that you use the most?
Facebook.
Why do you use this media?
I use it purely to keep in contact with people and friends, and just to see. It's a full package for me. You've got your news on the side, so you know what's happening. You've got just finding out what your friends have got up to. It's just something to do.
Have you ever experienced cyberbullying?
No.
Do you know anybody that has?
I don't, but I know it happens a lot.
Overall, do you think that technology has a positive or negative effect on younger generations?
I'd say it's a mixture of both, really. You've got your good points. I mean, you've got people to socialise with, but then at the end of the day, people are not aware of what actually goes on. Like, they don't tell the parents that they've been cyberbullied, so it's realistically, it's got its consequences as well as its advantages.
Do you think that social experiments are influential? Do you know what a social experiment is, yeah?
In a way.
Yeah, so if they show you a video and somebody goes into a restaurant and acts out that they're being, it's domestic violence, and somebody stands up and says, can't do that, and then they're, supposed to be actors, that's the kind of, social experiment. So do you think those are influential?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if it's acting on something, it's illustrating what could happen to you in life, so it's realistically, it's got a sense of morality. It's teaching you a lesson on what to do to stay safe.
So once you've watched them, does it make you want to act differently in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that influential counterpart, and it's really handy to have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so lights off first, and then.
Firstly, what does the royal family mean to you?
Royal family means to me a strain on the taxpayer, because they don't really pose any sort of real sort of influence in society today. They're just sort of there as a sort of tourist pull-in rather than actual lawmaker or decision maker.
So do you think the royal family has a place in modern Britain?
No, no.
Is the royal family seen as more of a ruling figure or more of a tourist attraction in today's society?
Definitely a tourist attraction, because as we've seen with like recent births and jubilees, it's been more sort of centred around them rather than, oh, the Queen's made a decision to behead some guy, like in the 1800s.
Do you think the royal family are pressured by the media, like celebrities?
They are, yeah, definitely, because there's been recent outbursts from Duchess of Cambridge as to the privacy when she was giving birth and her new son and daughter, etc.
And recent terrorist attacks suggest we could be at war sometime in the future. How much of an impact do you think the royal family would have if Britain did go to war?
Britain went to war, I think, if it was as big as, say, a World War II, then I think they'd have a lot of influence on morale and things, and they'd do speeches, etc. But with Iraq War and the Falklands War and stuff like that, they weren't really of significance. It was more the government making the speeches, depending on the size of the war.
Okay, so going on what Ali said, let's improvise now. See if you can sort of build on some of those questions and those answers.
I'm really not ready for hesitation.
Remember, your crew can jump in at this moment.
So the tourist thing, because tourists brings money into the country.
Yeah.
Tourism from different countries, so it's still bringing money in. Yet he's saying that let's take taxpayers' money, but it generates it as well.
Good for the economy.
Do you think the royal family is like good for the economy?
They are to an extent, because all they've really got is Buckingham Palace, and you don't pay to see Buckingham Palace, do you? You pay for your flight in, you pay for your food, and you don't pay to see Buckingham Palace. However, people come and pay to go to Legoland or Alton Towers, etc., or London in general. So you don't just come and see the royal family. You don't come to London for 4 hours, see Buckingham Palace, and then go home. Come to London, you go to Oxford Street, you go to Madame Tussauds, etc. So they're not the only tourist attraction. There's plenty others, and that's why people come, not just for the royal family.
Okay, man.
Okay, communicate. Okay, now, yeah.
So, Beth, what are your initial thoughts on racism?
I feel like people make too big an issue of racism, otherwise it wouldn't be there. Like, for example, if you're talking to somebody and they shout out, "Are you being racist?" it doesn't become racist until the point they say, "Oh, that were racist." For example, if they went, "Oh, this black man were talking to me," it doesn't become racist until someone makes an issue out of it.
Do you think the government and authorities are doing enough to prevent racism?
It's improved a bit since back before, because it weren't, obviously, they weren't treated great and their equality wasn't the same as ours. It still needs to be worked on, because there shouldn't be a difference between how they're treated to us, but they're not doing enough because it's not been prevented yet.
Overall, do you feel Britain has become more racist in recent years, with groups such as the BNP, EDL and Britain First becoming more prominent?
I wouldn't say Britain as a whole has become more racist. I just think certain people have got stronger views and they've made their own thoughts on that. But as a whole, Britain is becoming more accepting, apart from the little...
Just sort of these groups that are more putting it out there due to like social media and things like that.
As a whole, it's become more accepted, but certain groups have become like more attacking of it.
Do you feel there is more racist propaganda in the media? For and against, so not just to being racist, more sort of dealing with the whole issue?
I think it's become a lighter subject because some comedies, they do make fun of it, but it's taken off lightly. So yeah, I think there's a lot of propaganda in the media.
Satirical way, rather than being racist themselves. Do you think Britain is being portrayed as a racist country through the media, such as social media and the news? With people like Donald Trump saying there's places in Britain where it's a Muslim-only zone. If any white man goes in there, they're going to be attacked.
I suppose so. I suppose so in that sense, because obviously there is certain cultures that have created their own spaces in Britain, but I think if everyone just got along and didn't argue with each other about everything, then it wouldn't be such a big issue. But there is still the fact that there is people in certain areas that don't like to converse with each other and communicate.
Come sort of on to my next question. Do you think there's certain areas in Britain that are more racist than others?
Definitely, yeah. There is some people who aren't on the tech, older people, I suppose, the older communities. I think they're less accepting of.
That sort of grew up with racism being the norm.
Whereas the younger generations, I feel, are more accepting because of the way the media portrays it these days. They're more used to seeing different people, different cultures, which obviously helps for the younger people.
And do you think children and sort of young adults and the younger generation have more access or easier access to racist content through the media, so like social media and films?
I suppose they do have more access to racist content, but I feel the views are a lot not as strong as what it would have been for younger people back in the days, because they didn't know anything else otherwise. So they just went along with what their family thought, and if their family were racist, they'd obviously have their views, but now we can adopt his own views on it according to what other people think and what's actually going on in the news.
And finally, what do you think the future holds for racism in Britain? Do you think it's going to go away completely, or do you think there's still going to be the underlying ideals and ideologies?
Personally, I'd hope it'd go away, but I don't think it ever will. It's like war, that's never going to go away. It's always going to be someone who's unaccepting of it. But I think it'll get better, and rights obviously will become more equal, hopefully.
Cool. So going on that, we're going to improvise based on some of the answers that you've got. So not looking at your paper, going with your gut instinct. Your crew could also help you at this point.
With social media and people like Britain First, do you think that gives younger people a sort of avenue to racism rather than taking the other avenue, which isn't? Because if they're in a certain area, say like Barnsley, where we have a rather large population that believes white should be the higher race, do you think they believe that because they're around people like that, or do you think social media plays a part as well?
It's like I said before, it's everyone to their own, I suppose. But as I've also said, the older people are less likely to be moved, and if they aren't involved with the media and their views are quite against it, I don't think they're going to accept it. But for those people who have got a more open mind, I don't think it'd be an issue.
You guys got Alright, so these guys got any questions? Mine answered. Mine got answered. Okay, so cut everything, lights off first, break it down.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Nice one.
No problem.
We'll both be outside waiting for you.
Oh, thanks. I'll be suing you if my face looks dreadful.